afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Rainbow Trust's third in our series of Families First webinars. Today is a fantastic opportunity to celebrate our brothers and sisters, as it is acknowledged today as National Sibling Day. So if you have forgotten to get in touch with your sibling, don't forget to just get in touch, reach out. It's a chance for us to connect and remember the relationship that makes our brothers and sisters particularly special. For the families that Rainbow Trust supports, siblings of a child with a life-threatened illness can sometimes feel slightly as if they're forgotten. And the support that a Rainbow Trust family support worker can give them can make the difference that helps them understand and manage the new normal in which their family finds themselves. We're delighted today to be joined by Debbie Finney and her daughter Erin, who are a family supported by us in the Northeast and who have very kindly agreed to share their story and what Rainbow Trust means to them. Throughout the 45 minutes or so that we'll be talking to you, if you have any questions, down at the bottom is a Q&A function on your screen. So please do put your questions in there, and we will monitor those and come to them at the end or at a pertinent point in the next 45 minutes. As well as Debbie and Erin, we're also joined by Matt Lovejoy, who's our family support manager in the Southampton team, and by Jen, our Director of Care Services. So without further ado, I will hand over to the experts and allow Jen to introduce today's session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zilla, and thank you to everyone joining us today. We really appreciate the time that you're giving us. We know everyone has busy lives, but this is a really important subject for us at Rainbow Trust. Many of you will know we really strive to take a whole family approach in the work that we do, and we feel really privileged that families trust us at a time that is most challenging for them when they're dealing with difficult news, situations that are hard to understand. And as Zilla mentioned, quite often it's easy for a sibling to be a bit lost within this scenario. With so much going on medically around a sick child, it's really important that we think about everyone in the family. And that's absolutely where the skills of our family support workers and the teams as a whole come together. We're a regulated service. We're regulated with the Care Quality Commission. So we believe that we're able to demonstrate real quality and expertise, and that we are checked on to show that actually what we're doing is right. And we have a wonderful team infrastructure so that all of our support workers are able to get support within their teams and across other teams as well, to make sure that we're doing the very best for the families that we're working with. So I'm really excited now to be joined by Matt, who, as Zilla mentioned, is the manager for our Southampton team. And I think it would be great just to have a bit of a discussion about how he goes about assessing families, working with them, and really getting to grips with what's going to matter most to families. So Matt, if we dive in on that question first, if that's okay. Obviously, all families are totally unique. How do you and your team go about making those assessments and understanding who's in the family and what will really make the biggest difference to them?
Thanks, Jen. It's a good question. So we go with the question of what do you need? Because ultimately it's not a one size fits all. For every family might be different. What their needs within that family structure differ too. So once we understand a bit of what they need, and not everyone knows, to be honest, what they need at that moment in time. It might just be a short-term goal, which then evolves and changes as we do regularly plan, and it evolves as we go. But it's person-centered. So we'll explain how we can help to give some ideas. It's an open conversation. It's not rigid. We're not a one-size-fits-all approach. So we might look at how we could be sort of offering emotional support, what that might look like, practical support, bereavement support, transport, signposting. There might be drop-ins that we believe we could signpost them towards, internally or externally, hospital visits, and navigating their needs. So it's an open conversation.
Brilliant. That's really helpful, Matt. And I guess this is a good point for us to actually ask everyone that's joined us today on the call. Obviously, today we're thinking specifically about the siblings, the brothers and sisters of the children and young people that we're supporting. It would be really great to see what people think the sibling of a seriously ill child might be feeling at that point. So when Matt and his team start to meet people, what do you think would be on their minds? So by the wonders of modern technology, you'll see a QR code on your screens. That will take you to a Slido question asking exactly that. If you could put your answers in, that would be wonderful. And then we'll have a word cloud so that we've got some ideas around how people within the group on the call today feel that a child who has a seriously ill sibling might be feeling. It's where we see who's been able to scan things with their cameras. We've got some answers coming in, which is wonderful. And I'm sure there are lots of words coming up there, Matt, that you would absolutely identify with from the families that you've supported.
Yes, absolutely, Jen. There's some really good words there. It's good. Thanks everyone for contributing.
That's absolutely it, isn't it? This sort of anxious, worried, alone, confused, all things that are really important to consider. Thank you, everyone who's put in their words there. And I think this is something we'll probably capture and keep, because I think it's something really helpful that we can show to our support workers as well. It's wonderful to see how people are thinking around what it's like for the children that we're working with. So if we go on then, Matt, obviously we've got a lot of things that have come up on the screen there. When you first meet a family, obviously your first point of contact is going to be the parents. What sort of things do they say that they're most worried about in terms of the sibling for the seriously ill child?
I mean, there's some definite words here that resonate with me, and yeah, I think concerns from any parent when you feel like you want to split yourself into a few, and unfortunately you have to make a difficult decision on where they can be at one place at one time, and they're usually very aware that there's not the same time. The routines can be disrupted, that level of attention, and the impact on siblings, because it's a huge juggling act to try and navigate. So yeah, I think it's just being brutally aware that time can only be spent once, and that's one of the reasons why we look to supplement that and be an extra level of support. It's that disruption to it's the small things but make a big difference. So it's them being like we are online now, they might be forced to do certain routines in a different way, and whilst they can't be there physically with everyone, they're trying to navigate and meet the needs of siblings as well. And it might be a concern around behaviours, or what they see as new behaviours that might be coming out as a result of and processing, because everyone deals with information and understands differently. A diagnosis, they might have concerns about. Some might want to protect, and it's age specific. They might not be appropriate to go through that in depth, but it's navigating how to have that conversation and how to explain things in an age appropriate way. One of the bits on there that struck me was they are essentially young carers, because having to do more and take responsibility in the sense of not having the same access to their parents. It's not that they're having to care for their necessarily sibling at this moment if it's fresh, but that can happen too. But it's a lot of responsibility for everyone that gets shared.
And you saying that just makes me reflect on some time I actually spent with your team at one of the drop-in sessions, and parents saying how they felt quite guilty that they weren't always getting that balance right. They're really challenging. And I think you hit on another thing there about just how different children are from each other. There is, you've said yourself, one size doesn't fit all. What are the types of questions that you get from children and young people who've got a seriously ill sibling? Do they typically want to talk about what's happening with their brother or sister, or are they more focused in other areas in your experience?
We get such a range of conversation. if they're maybe on the older side, they might have reflected on and wanted to get some further understanding. They might be asking you a little bit more detail about the role and what we can do and how we can help and how it affects them. It's really important to understand the parents' wishes and their cultural beliefs to make sure that you're aligned, that you're validating their concerns, their questions, that it's actually a bit of a privilege and an honor that they feel able to ask that of you, to involve you in that, because it is a private aspect of everyone's life. But yeah, questions, it might, if they're younger, to be honest, it might just be around what we're doing and the play, and then through role play or naturally things can just blurt out of a child's mouth, and then okay, so they are processing that, and it's a way in, and it's I think it's really important. And I'm a big kid myself, so play is quite a big feature for me. So I get to do sports, and even like playing table tennis at the drop-in, dads might open up and you're not thinking, you're just you're in the moment, and you can have those deeper connections through play. So I do think play is plays a significant role in opening up conversation.
Brilliant. And that's really interesting. And obviously play is quite a core offer with our support workers in terms of how they connect with children and young people and really give them the space and comfort to have the discussions that they want to have rather than what we think they want to say. So I guess the next question is, do you see a real difference in, so the younger children, so the ones that are maybe primary school age or younger, and then teenage young people as well, in terms of what they want to talk about and how?
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to almost park your adult brain of how you want it to go, and you try and steer. It's a bit like putting resources on a table. You don't know how they're going to be used. You facilitate it, and I think you just have to be child-led. And when they're ready and they want to discuss and open up, then obviously you're ready for that, the best of your ability. But yeah, I think that there is a clear difference between age. I mean, I've done sibling supports where they have got a lot of self-awareness and they are able to, but I want to ask. It's my need, and I feel like it's what I would want from them. But it's allowing that right time for when they want to. So open questions, and then once you've got them on a topic, exploring that more and asking and validating and understanding and affirming what we're there for and if we can help in any way. So it's not rigid. It's not linear.
Yeah, that's so helpful, Matt. And I think what's come through really beautifully is that absolute respect that children and young people will do things on their terms, and it would be completely wrong of us to assume we know how and when they want to say things. But I think also the fact that you've talked about the different routes into connecting with children and young people, that it is about looking at what matters most to them, that's so important. So my final question for you leads on from that, really. How do you and how do your team know that what you've done has made an impact?
That's a really good question, and capturing success is a topic that we often talk about as part of the team. We do snapshot audit where we ask for people's feedback, but regularly we do get feedback in the moment and through messages or thank you cards. But for them, one of the resonating comments a family support worker made to me was that just the pure anticipation and joy waiting for that family support. So it might feel like a small plan or time with that child, but for them it really does mean so much, and just how happy they are for that validates that there is worth in what we do, that it's not not just play, but there is meaning, there's deeper, it has ripples across the whole family. We do have outcomes, so it might be something like anxiety has been reduced, so you get clear outcomes, and I love it when a child might paraphrase to you something that you may have given them as advice, and they're relaying that to you, and it's like, amazing, that's a great idea, and you can sort of hear that it's being embedded within them. Just that we make a difference, no matter how big or small it might be, that actually don't downplay it. These acts of kindness, these supportive roles we do, they are bigger than the nominal act we're doing at that moment in time. Overcoming challenges together. So we had one family that, I don't know, it had a sibling that really had a lot of fear around hospital. So actually entering the hospital was a huge barrier, but we managed to get them to have a Costa hot chocolate in the hospital. That was a massive success. So you know, what might be a success for one family might not be for another. So it's recognizing that they're personalized. As I said before, just being involved in such a private area of people's lives, and, you know, coming in the front door, the community, the hospital, going out and outreach. It's amazing. It's a really diverse role and lends itself to so many great successes and impact that I wish I could measure it all, Jen. Tell me how.
So do I. Thanks, Matt. And I think that's a really good point, actually, to hand over to Debbie and Erin, who are going to speak from their own personal experience. But I love your analogy of that small thing, what might seem like a small drop in the ocean, actually having a much broader ripple effect, and the anticipation of a child or young person for the support worker coming round, the happiness a family might feel in this difficult situation for having that additional person to lean on and share things with is absolutely phenomenal, and an impact that sometimes is really difficult to measure, but knowing it's there is so important. So thank you, Matt. And I'm now really excited to hand over to the most important people on this afternoon's webinar, and that's Debbie Finney and her lovely daughter, Erin, who are going to speak from their own personal experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. So we've been involved with the Rainbow Trust through my little boy was born with an undiagnosed condition. So what this meant for a lot of other charities is we didn't meet the criteria to have support. The Rainbow Trust recognised that Jackson's condition was life-threatening. He forgets to breathe. His heart can sometimes forget to beat when it should. So as a result of that, when he was born, we spent 2 years living in hospital trying to find what the cause of this was that we still haven't got. That was when we were first introduced to the Rainbow Trust. And what they did for us is when we were in the hospital, awaiting them diagnoses, going through horrible times, they were able to come in with the bright pink t-shirts on, full of happiness, and they were able to take Erin just out of the room, out of the hospital, away into normal life, whether it be the shops. And for me as a parent, just to be able to breathe, to know that my other child is very much getting the care and support that she needs, the things that I would love to do, but exactly like what Matt touched on there, you want to cut yourself in half, but you can't do it. So for us, the Rainbow Trust was phenomenal in doing that, in breaking the kind of monotonous stuck in a hospital bed around a seriously ill child. Jackson continues to be undiagnosed. We now have a hospital at home basis, and from that we had a hospital worker called Kate who was absolutely amazing. And then when we started looking at the process of bringing Jackson home, we were introduced to Jamie, who's worked with us for years now. And she transitioned us from the hospital to home. And Jamie and Kate were the only people who came in that hospital room who weren't either delivering us bad news, who weren't intervening with Jackson, who weren't giving him medication, taking him down to surgery, the multiple of things that you'd expect in hospital. The Rainbow Trust were solid, positive impact on our life. It was exactly, you'd see the bright pink t-shirts coming down the corridor, and it was a big smile on Erin's face because she knew that she was going to be seeing somebody. And like I say, Jamie helped us move back home with a child who'd never been home. He didn't come home as you would expect. He came home with oxygen machines, intravenous machines, lots of medical things, and she's been our solid. She's always there for us. She's invaluable. And the whole of the Rainbow Trust starts, not just the one person you have. It's a very much team effort. Everybody in the Northeast team, they all know of the other children, they all support the siblings, support each other. They have the siblings events, which I'm sure you would like to talk about.
Yeah, so as a young carer, I've been a young carer since I was 6, and I've grown up like way too quickly. From what I can remember, it was you were always coming into hospitals, and all people would ask, which sounds really selfish, but all people would ask is, "How's your brother doing?" It wasn't never, "Are you okay?" It's, "How's your brother?" And like as a young person and like as a child who was in primary school, it was sort of like, well, why aren't I important? Which at the time I knew that my brother needed more help than me, but you did sort of feel a bit forgotten. Then Jamie came in, like Mum said, all bright and colourful. She took us out. She got us out of the hospital. She actually asked how I was. It wasn't, oh, so what's happening with your brother? And if she did, she didn't word it in the way that everyone else did. It was, how am I doing? How am I feeling about this? Which, as a young person in primary, that took a lot off me. I've been severely bullied all my life because I was a weak target, because of my brother, and because I was living in hospital. And Jamie was one of the first people that I told about what was happening with me. She was always there for us. I could talk to her about anything. We go out all the time. Me and Jamie have got a really close bond now. We go around like Seaton Devil and stuff, which is like haunted places. She takes us out for food, which I love. Shopping sprees, just getting us out the house, because yes, like Mum does try our best, but sometimes you do feel a bit forgotten, because there is always, if there's two of you, he'll always get a bit more attention because of his medical needs. So having someone who you can message anytime you want, who'll take you out, it was just like a relief, and it helped me a lot. I'm 14 and I've had her since, and I've been a young carer since I was 6, and I went out with her on the Monday, and she just like brightens you up. You just feel so much better, and just to get things like off your chest without feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be saying this, he's my brother, I can't say this. It just feels like a lot better and a lot relieving, and I would thank her for that so much, because it just means the world to us.
I think for us, for me as a parent to know that Erin does have somebody to speak to, and one of the things that me and Erin speak about quite openly is the fact Erin doesn't want to tell me how she's feeling, because she feels that I've got enough to deal with Jackson. So as a parent, to know that we have got the Rainbow Trust there, that is so important, to know that Erin has got that person she can speak to, who she's not feeling that she has to keep things in or keep them secrets. And I mean, some of the conversations that they'll have, it could be anything about how rubbish school is, how we've got exams coming up, to discussing Jackson's theatres, even down to, we spend a lot of time coming from Newcastle down to Great Ormond Street. So Jamie linked us up with the Rainbow Trust down there, so that if Erin had anybody, if she had any worries, she knew that there was, you called it a Jamie twin, didn't you, down there for her ready. And just knowing that Erin's got that kind of security blanket is fantastic. Erin didn't need it when we were there, but because she knew it was there, I think it's just, you can't put into words what they do and how important it is for the sibling support. It's amazing, and it is one of the, as I say, we don't, even though Jackson has a life-threatening condition, he is hospital at home, he has a lot of medical care, we don't tick the boxes because he doesn't have a diagnosis. And the Rainbow Trust not only welcomed that and listened to us and had that conversation and came to see us, they've continued to support us throughout, even through COVID. They were our constant support. Absolutely fantastic. We would be lost without them. Absolutely lost.
Thank you, Debbie and Erin. I know there's a few questions that have come in, but also one of the things, I mean, I'm just picking up on some of the things that you said, Erin, you know, getting me out of the house and having someone else to talk to, and you picked up on this, Debbie, the context in which you feel you can't always be there for her, but you know she has that trusted person. I think it's wonderful. And actually, one of the questions was a fairly basic question around whether we support across the UK. So your comment about how being in Great Ormond Street and having the Rainbow Trust person down there is a really good one. I suppose, Erin, you talked about going shopping with Jamie. I was going to ask you, what was your favourite activity you've done? Would it be fair to say shopping, or what do you think?
Just like anything really. we've done loads. Me and Jamie are just really funny together. So we'll go to like museums, we'll go shopping, we'll go cinemas.
Ghost hunts.
Yeah, ghost hunting. Just stuff. It just gets. I like everything because I just feel like I know that Jackson's all right, and I know that it's not going to be like, oh, what's your brother? Oh, do you need to like? It's just like she knows about Jackson. I don't have to explain my entire life story to her, and I can just be me with her. So it's just like a massive relief for me.
You like getting lost. Jamie's not the best at directions, so we've had a few. They got stranded in a Ford once, so it's definitely adventures.
Yeah.
Well, we might have to nominate her for one of the in-house Rainbow Trust. What could you not do Oscar awards this year on that basis in terms of not being able to find anything? But you also said something, Erin, which I found was really poignant, because I know another sister of a boy who was supported said the same thing, which is, you didn't actually say it like this. What she said was, I love my brother, but I don't always like him. And it was that sort of, because of the attention that he's getting, because, you know, other people are focusing on him. And I just think that's a really important thing to remember, that as Jamie treats you, you are your own individual person, Erin. You're not just Jackson's sister. And I think that's really important. Debbie, I'm rather disappointed that Jackson hasn't made his usual appearance, because what Debbie has not said is that she also contributes back to Rainbow Trust by being a member of our care committee. And occasionally we do have appearances on care committee meetings from Jackson, who has very, very strong opinions as far as I can tell. One other question for you, Debbie. Did you notice a difference in Erin and how Erin was when Jamie started supporting you?
100%, absolutely. When we were in hospital at that time, it wasn't a very nice time. And even down to the little things, I was trying as hard as I could to keep things normal, and that would be taking Erin to school, much to her disappointment. And at times it would be even things like that. I would get Jackson would take unwell. So I knew that I could call on Jamie to be able to go and get Erin from school. And this wasn't, it's certainly not a drop-in service or anything like that, but in them emergency situations, I knew I had that, and I just knew that I could breathe, because I knew that she was safe. I knew that she was with someone who she wanted to be with, because she didn't want to be in the hospital room with us. She didn't want to listen to the things that the doctors were saying, and Jamie was able to do that. She was able to just have that little, Erin refers to hospital as prison because we were in there for so long, and even that, her and Jamie can have that kind of banter around that, and it's just knowing that she's there. It's knowing that I'm not going to have the school on the phone saying, oh, you've got a stranded child. My husband, he works on the oil rig, so he's out of the country for 7 months of the year. So we are very much us, and Jamie comes in and definitely supports us with that.
Thank you. Matt, one of the questions that's come in is around how much time a family support worker's role is about providing sibling support as opposed to other support.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So when we interview candidates, we say that it's approximately 20 hours face-to-face and 15 hours admin. And so, you know, we do have to travel. We have a wide area that we cover. I think you touched on that earlier. It's really hard to break down because one family support worker's caseload might have more siblings than another. And the need might be different. And sometimes it shifts between sibling and sick child. So we do cater for all of that. It's a political answer, Zilla, but I can't give a specific number. But you know, it can vary. It can be a lot, and if you factor in drop-ins as well, you can kind of cater to more. So, sorry, it's not a specific number, but it can be a lot of those hours.
No, that's great. And there's also another question around, and I know we've got a couple of other charities on this, which is always lovely because we like that whole collaboration across charities. And there's a question around how people can refer into the service. And I suppose the answer to that question is, depends on where you are, if you know your local team, because we have 9 teams across the country and we also provide online, but the easiest way to do it is through our website. and then it gets divvied out to the relevant team who will get back in touch with you. So there are good ways to do that. I mean, there's a couple of people, there's certainly someone, Matt, who's asking to be connected with you afterwards. So we will do that. I'm not sure that there are any other questions, actually, unless I'm going to give people a little bit of a chance to type another couple of questions. But in the meantime, I suppose, Jen, what are your reflections on what Debbie and Erin have said about their experience?
So I think it's always most powerful when you hear from the families that are actually experiencing all of this. And I think what really resonated for me from Erin was her discussion about how things were at school. There's been lots of research done for years around young carers, and that bullying at school aspect seems to be a really common theme. So I think for me, just seeing how that work with Jamie helped her have a different experience is really powerful. You know, school, a bit like work, takes up a lot of our time. So if you're going in there and it's not a good experience, that's really, really hard to maintain. So the outlet of having someone to talk to that you trust, that you can share the things with that you're worrying, I think is a really powerful aspect of the support that we give. And I love the fact that Jamie varies what she does. I'm slightly concerned about the ghost hunts, but also slightly excited. I might ask to go on one too. But I think it's great that she's really understood what matters to Erin and what's going to really give Erin the fun and the outlet that she needs when there is this long-term challenging situation at home. And I love the balance that Jamie's achieved as well, so that, you know, Debbie feels total trust in her, because it's hard when you're supporting a child who's so seriously unwell and worrying about the sibling, to then bring someone else into your family and say, actually, it's okay for them to have these conversations that I'd quite like to have as well. So I think what they've done is really highlight the uniqueness of the approach that we take when we're working with families. And that absolute sort of resonated with what Matt was saying around one size doesn't fit all. It's about understanding each child within the family, each member of the family, and the extended family too.
Thank you, Jen. There's another question which I'm not sure I know the answer to here, which is, are there any areas that we would recommend for research and learning around siblings' experiences? So we might have a think about that and go back to the person who's asked the question separately. We've got your details, but I think it's a good question. We did a report several years ago called See Us, Hear Us, Notice Us, which was about siblings and their need for support and how they feel. And we did a lot of interviews. So that's a good starting point, but we will come back to you on that. The only other thing to say is that there's a couple of people in the Q&A saying, thank you so much, Debbie and Erin, for sharing your experience. It's a really powerful thing to do. And there's a couple of people who've specifically asked me to say that. So very much thank you for that. What I will say is, oh, hang on, there's another question, Erin. Has it been important to know about your brother's treatment and what medication he's on for you?
Well, I've always known what's happened to him. I've saved my brother's life multiple times, and you get sort of in school, you get it quite a lot in biology lessons when they're saying something, and then they're like, and then I'll go into the more wordy terms of it because my brother, and then they're like, well, how do you know that? And it just doesn't seem different for me. I sometimes I shouldn't know everything because I am still quite young, and it happened for our ski trip. I was going on the ski trip with the school, and my brother had to get taken to hospital, but mum and dad couldn't tell me because they knew that if I found out, I would have refused to go. So sometimes I do know what happens with him, but sometimes it's better to not tell me everything because I would get overprotective of him, and I have been my entire life.
I think that's a very powerful point, Erin. Thank you. I completely appreciate that. I think I love the fact that you have a sort of a knowledge of some scientific terms that people are never going to learn. I did a genetics degree and I've forgotten most of that, and you're probably way ahead of me in terms of the language you have learned. So thank you for that. And the person who asked the question said, thanks, Erin, that's a great answer. So there you are. So all I will now say is that there is a survey at the end to say what you thought. Again, there's a couple of people saying thank you for sharing, Erin. It's been so insightful. So, but there's a survey that will come up at the end. So do please feel free, because we use your experiences to work out what really matters and what you want to hear about. So if you can, I think you have to scan the QR code, or I don't know, but whatever, I'm sure you'll work it out. But thank you so much to Debbie and Erin particularly. Thank you, Matt and Jen. And thank you to all of you for attending, because it's really powerful for us to know that people are interested, and the feedback that's coming in, Erin, on you and Debbie is wonderful. What a wonderful young person Erin is. You must be so proud of her.
Very proud.
So thank you all very much for joining, and we look forward to seeing lots of you at our 4th one in the series. I have no idea when it is, but I'm sure we will be in touch with all of you. So thank you all very much, and please do fill in the survey.